What's up, guys? It is Monday, October 24th, and it's 2:30 p.m., and this is the Crypto Newsletter. So we're going to start this off with Jim Rickards. He's been popping up all over Twitter lately and in the past couple months here. The one that was talking about a payment currency, replacing the dollar first as a payment currency, and then ultimately a world's reserve currency. And I remember reading his book. I think it was called the Great Depression or something. I have it over there. I think it's called Aftermath. But I read his book back in 2019 before COVID. And the shit that he had laid out in there was just unreal. And he basically foretold the events and what happened in 2020 and just like everything. He foretold it. And ultimately, he had said in the book that the dollar would be replaced as a world reserve currency with either the IMF SDR, a gold-backed digital reserve currency. He talked about Hyperledger and how they would play a role. And that's what really opened my eyes up back then to look deeper into this stuff and look at what is really going on in the big grand scheme of things and not what's going on in the day-to-day. Like, there's a huge shift that is about to happen and has already been happening the past years now, but I believe we're getting close to the grand finale. So it's good to kind of go over this stuff. But yeah, this was his book, Aftermath, Jim Rickards, right here. So the 7 Secrets of Wealth Preservation in the Coming Chaos. So good book. But let's go into what he said here back in 2017. He said, James Rickards says Donald Trump can't stop the next financial crisis. To avoid it, we'd have to break up the big banks and ban most derivatives. So this goes back to the point of derivatives and how the locking up in the system, maybe derivatives is the ultimate kind of catalyst to have the system and the bond market implode, because we saw with the UK pensions thing recently, UK pensions, derivatives blow up. So UK pension funds ask corporates for cash after gilt blow up sources. So yeah. So with big losses British pension funds with big losses in gilt market derivatives have sought emergency funds from the companies they manage money for as they race to dump assets to raise cash. And yeah, so like this whole thing with the derivatives and the bond market and how it could have a systemic worldwide lock up, a global spillover, and have a global crisis, and it could all result from just one country. Something like this could blow up the whole system because all these banks are intertwined together. One goes down, then that affects the next one. It's a house of cards, dominoes. One goes over, they all go. So this could play into that. So let's go into this article. He said, so Jim Rickards sees threats in many places. In his latest book, The Road to Ruin, the Global Elite's Secret Plan for the Next Financial Crisis, he paints a picture of how that crisis will unfold. He argues that rather than pumping the financial system with liquidity as happened in 2008, elites will freeze the financial plumbing until the crisis has passed. This is basically calling like a reset. So instead of pumping the financial system with liquidity, they need to freeze it shut. Then while it's frozen, they can replace it and ultimately reset it to be the quantum financial system or a whole new future financial system based on DLT for the plumbing instead. And we've seen throughout the years how that's been the common narrative. We need to have different plumbing when it comes to the financial system, etc. So let's keep going, because he said that means banks will close, as will exchanges. I don't know if that will play a role with crypto. If crypto exchanges will close, but we should bank on it. But I do believe this is going to happen. So we should listen closely to this because we can get keys to know if we're nearing the moment. So that means banks will close, as will exchanges. Money market funds will be inaccessible. Forget trying to get your hands on money. Rickards, who is the principal negotiator of the 1998 bailout of long-term capital management as the hedge fund's general counsel, calls this new world ICE 9. So ICE 9 is what he's calling the freezing of the financial system and ultimately the reset of it. So after a fictitious substance in Cat's Curdle, freezing customer funds and bank accounts is what happened in Cyprus in 2012 and Greece in 2015, he says. In the US, the Security and Exchange Commission adopted a rule in 2014 that lets money market funds suspend redemptions. So they've been working on this now for like 8 years. Prefer stockpiling cash. Governments are eliminating high denomination bills. And Kenneth Rogoff, a former IMF chief economist, has written a book that Rickards describes as an elite step-by-step plan to eliminate cash entirely. I'm definitely going to look into that. So then Rickards says there are rules on banks and other institutions. Capital controls could be imposed to keep money from fleeing across borders. And in the US, it's still under the state of emergency declared by President George Bush days after 9/11 terrorist attacks and renewed annually since then. So we're still in this state of emergency since 2001. I didn't know that. So Rickards argues that such measures can be applied in any emergency, including money riots in the event of a financial system breakdown and an ICE 9 asset freeze. It's a global takeover. Rickards, who now advises the Defense Department and U.S. intelligence community on international economics and financial threats, discussed his latest book right here. So they're asking, why do you believe a financial crisis come in 2018? What do you see as the likely triggers? So a financial crisis is certainly coming. In Road to Ruin, I used 2018 as a target date and device because the two prior systemic crises, 1998 and 2008, were 10 years apart. I extended the timeline 10 years into the future from 2008 crisis to maintain the 10-year tempo, and this is how I arrived to 2018. Yet I make the point in the book that the exact date is unimportant. What is most important is that the crisis is coming and the time to prepare is now. It could happen in 2018, 2019, or it could happen tomorrow. The conditions for collapse are all in place. Now being in 2022, we're seeing, it's a little delayed, but all the signs are there as far as this is about to be implemented. So it's simply a matter of the right catalyst, and that's what we're really waiting for. And an array of factors in the critical state. Likely triggers could include a major bank failure, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, there's a lot of stuff going on with that. A failure to deliver physical gold. We're seeing the gold and silver vaults being drained right now. And then we have the implementation of the Basel III Accords. I believe it's January 1st, 2023 is the implementation date. But I remember seeing a Bank of International Settlements report urging people to just put it in place now. So we're in a war, a natural disaster. We've seen plenty of natural disasters the past couple months, a cyber financial attack and many other events. The trigger does not matter. I'm still waiting on this cyber financial attack. It's happened in other countries. And then Israel, the IMF, Bank of International Settlements, they all did what's it called? Let me actually look it up. A cyber pandemic stress test, Bank of Israel, IMF. So they did this back December 2021, I believe. This is new to me. Wow. I always find heat while going down these deep dives, and I do them real time. I don't plan these ahead. But this is what we're looking at. Oh, could not be found. Weird. Israel hosts cyber pandemic exercise simulating cyber attack. Israel's Ministry of Defense Finance hosts a cyber pandemic exercise similar to Cyber Polygon, where 10 countries, the IMF, Bank of International Settlements, and the World Bank simulate this cyber pandemic exercise. This was back December 27, 2021. This is crazy. They do not want me to see this. Canceled stress testing. All right. I'm going to give it one more shot because I don't want to get flagged here. All right, there we go. So exclusive IMF 10 countries simulate cyber attack in global financial system. You have Bank of England involved. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. The simulation, likely caused by what officials called sophisticated players, featured several types of attacks that impacted global foreign exchange and bond markets, liquidity, integrity of data, and transactions between importers and exporters. These events are creating havoc in the financial markets. Guys, this is where we're at right now. But participants in the initiative called Collective Strength include Treasury officials from Israel, United States, United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, and Netherlands, Thailand, as well as representatives from the IMF, World Bank, Bank of International Settlements. Couldn't get bigger of an event than that, the people involved. And the banks are appealing for emergency liquidity assistance in a multitude of currencies to put a halt to the chaos as counterparties withdraw their funds and limit access to liquidity, leaving the banks in disarray and ruin. I mean, like, come on. Emergency liquidity assistance, XRP, on-demand liquidity. XRP can be swapped into a multitude of currencies. I mean, like, there's no other thing like this that I've seen. I mean, like, if you've seen something else, send it through and I would love to see it. But I mean, this is spelling it all out for us right here. So let's keep going into this article. So he said the exact timing does not matter. What matters is that this crisis is inevitable and it's coming soon. Investors need to prepare. Is this likely to be on the scale of the 2008 financial crisis, or what's a better comparison? He said the new crisis will be of unprecedented scale, biblical. This is because the system itself is of unprecedented scale and interconnectedness. In complex dynamic systems that reach the critical state, most catastrophic event that can occur is an exponential function of scale. We don't got to go into that. But since we vastly increased the scale of the financial system since 2008 with larger banks, greater concentration of banking assets and fewer institutions, larger derivatives positions, and $70 trillion of new debt, we should expect the next crisis to be much worse than the last. There's no comparison short of wartime exigencies such as 1914. The next crisis will be of unprecedented scale and damage. So then he said, on the flip side, or they asked him, on the flip side, what could prevent the crisis? How do you respond to those who say this is just fear-mongering and a conspiracy theory? What are they missing? So he talks about policies that could prevent the crisis are spelled out clearly in the book. These include reinstatement of the Glass-Steagall, separation of investment, commercial banking, breaking up big banks, banning most derivatives, and tougher law enforcement of bank wrongdoing. It explains, we can skip that. All right, so the election of Donald Trump does little to change my analysis. The Trump administration is focusing on macroeconomic policy relating to taxes, spending, and regulation. That's fine, but it does not address the issue of systemic risk, which exists separately from normal business cycle and credit cycle considerations, although credit cycles and systemic risk event may coincide at times. All right, so the policies to avoid a systemic catastrophe in the financial system that I would recommend to the Trump admin are the same ones outlined in the book. And it talks about, we had already said. So who will be the biggest losers in the next crisis, and how do you recommend that investors position themselves? Losers will fall into two groups. The first are those who hold wealth in digital forms, such as stock, bonds, money market funds, bank accounts. This type of wealth is the easiest to freeze in a panic. You'll not be able to access this wealth, except perhaps in very small amounts for gas and groceries in the next panic. The solution is to have hard assets outside the digital system, such as gold, silver, fine art, land, private equity, where you rely on written contracts and not digital records. The second group are those who rely on fixed income returns, such as life insurance, annuities, retirement accounts, social security, and bank interest. These income streams are likely to lose value. Since governments will have to resort to inflation to deal with overwhelming mountain of debt collapsing upon them, the solution to this is to allocate 10% of your investable assets to physical gold or silver. That will be your inflation insurance when the time comes. And it seems like the clock is ticking. It seems like we're getting close to that. And I'm going to add on to that. It says anything digital, but I believe that if you have like a digital currency on a ledger device, that's the key there. I think it'll be good, because if you have your crypto on your own ledger, you can still access it. Whereas if it's on the exchange, they could just freeze the exchange. So I would add that in there. So that's what he had laid out for us. And it seems like a lot of things are piling up to be the moment. We're at the moment. So since I believe that we're very close to this moment, I wanted to do something I haven't done before. So on Stargate's website, stargate-ventures.com, we have educational courses on crypto, the macro economy, everything that's been going on, and that's going to unfold for the future. I broke those videos down into a crypto masterclass accelerator that I'm giving people free access to. I haven't done it before. The reason being is we need to get people prepared. I mean, like, it's almost time. There's been so many close calls in just the past weeks that, like, if you don't know where we've been, where we're at now, and what's to come and how to prepare for that, this crypto masterclass accelerator will give you all the knowledge and tools you need to be able to water this storm that is well on its way. And who knows, it could happen tomorrow, it could happen in a week, a month, maybe next year, but it's better to get the education beforehand so you're acting proactively rather than reactively. So if you haven't done it yet, in the description in the video here, there will be a link to Stargate's website. You can click that, get access, as well as you can get access to our Discord. We have crypto automated signals in there and everything like that. So looking forward to seeing you guys get in there, and I'll see you in the next video.